right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, if he wins, I'm looking forward to like these after parties. If he loses, it's going to be really sad.
Oh man. Yeah, it's crazy how he's just like a norm he seems like a normal casual dude to me. And versus Magnus who's like the model and like child prodigy from from day one and all these things.
Right. Yeah. No, Fabi is very down to earth, so it's great to see. I mean, he's a good role model for American chess.
Mm,
So
fantastic.
anyway, do you want to get into your games? No, it seems like you've been playing a lot lately.
Yeah, I'm trying my best. I played a weekend tournament that I did okay in, 3 out of 6. And what's more important is I got to play against people higher rated than me, which was like the most invaluable thing.
Of
And I got to
course.
test out the close Sicilian, so that was fun.
Yeah, I saw a good number of games. Seems like a lot of people are playing Sicilian, not too much like other variety, at least of the games that I was taking a look at.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I've never faced against the Caro Kann or Scandinavian or anything in a tournament game, and I played now like 40, 50 games now. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, I'm surprised. Like on Blitz, I get it very often, but now I'm like only against Sicilian or against E5.
Yeah, I wonder if that's coincidence or it's just like people in your area. Sometimes based on location, there's larger tendencies to play a certain opening. Um, like sometimes people in the U.S. will be inclined to play like more dynamically or more aggressively, so you might see more Sicilians. But if you go
Mm.
to Europe, you'll see a lot of like E4, E5, like King's Pawn opening.
Oh, interesting.
Um, and then French. I mean, I'm surprised you haven't run into like French or Caro Kann like out of 50 games. I mean, it's going to happen eventually. So,
It will, yeah.
but of course, it's good to prioritize the openings that you're running into most often.
Definitely. I think the future coaching session, I'll ask for your help on against the Caro Kann. But for now, I haven't come into it yet, so I'm pretty good.
Sure. If someone like if someone played the Caro Kann against you like tomorrow, would you know what to do? Is there something that you've at least looked at?
Yeah, I know like the first like 5, 6 moves, but
Mhm.
after that, like it's very foreign to me. It's just chess.
Gotcha. Out of curiosity, what do you play as like after E4 C6?
I play the two knights attack,
Oh, okay.
and they usually take on E4, and I capture back with my knight. They play bishop F5, and I play knight G3 with H4 later coming. And after H4, I'm out of book.
Wait. Okay, we'll have to look at this a couple more times, but before the session ends, because Bishop F5 is
Okay.
actually like just a bad move for Black.
Or no, is usually they take the bishop back to G6, no?
Wait, Are we thinking about the same position? I'm making a new chapter here,
Okay, sure.
and you're saying two knights attack, where they
Yes.
take on E4 and play Bishop F5.
Uh, yes.
So one of the whole points of playing the two knights attack is to make it so that this line is just unplayable for Black. So
Ah.
this is usually the first thing I teach actually when I show people this line that like already after Bishop G6, Black's in major trouble.
Uh,
Because after
I
H4,
see.
the resulting variation is pretty forcing, and Black's going to get a really ugly position. Um, like even here, Black has to play H6, right?
Yeah.
Like, not much else to do. And then you have a very strong move. Any chance you know it immediately?
Well, I see it in the opening explorer. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
cheating a little bit.
Oh, that's okay.
Uh,
95 is very strong. Like sometimes in other certain types of positions you play H5, but 95 is quite effective kicking the bishop. And then the whole point after bishop to H7, you can play Queen H5.
hmm.
And you're just keeping initiative. Black has to play G6. If Queen D5, there would be a simple tactic Bishop C4, and you're just crushing.
Hmm.
And meanwhile, after Queen H5, G6, really nice move for White. Queen or not Queen, Bishop to C4.
Threaten mate. Yeah, I think I've seen
Threaten
this
mate.
before. Mm-hmm.
I played this like on stream, and then I get to this position after queen e2. Um, and usually, like when bishop f5 is played on move 4, it's almost guaranteed that this position will happen. And
Nice.
then a lot of players will play some natural move like this or this or this or this. All of these moves are blunders because white has a tactical threat. None of these moves for black prevent the threat. Let's imagine like bishop g7.
Yeah.
You see it?
Well, I think I saw it a long time ago. Knight takes
Mm-hmm.
f7 and
Yeah.
queen takes.
And then you're just, if king takes back, you're mating. So,
Yeah.
um, so if we were to expand on this opening, okay, of course you want to like understand this line, and then we have to look at alternatives for when black doesn't play bishop f5
Yeah,
or
sure.
doesn't take on e4.
Yeah, actually, while we're on here, is it okay if we cover this for like like 5, 10 minutes or
Oh
so?
yeah, no problem. Yeah, my pleasure.
My biggest weak, like I guess like hole is when they just have a super solid setup where
Mm-hmm.
they just do the standard setup, and
Mm.
I'm not sure how like what are White's ideas to like break through or like what is White's play? It just seems like they're just very solid, and I can't even get in D5, and yeah, I'm not sure what the plan is.
Mm-hmm. It would help more actually if you had like a game like
Yeah,
it sounds like you've played a game in this before where black maybe just plays solidly and then you don't know what to do.
yeah,
Um,
I'll show you next time then.
sure.
Just in general, I was just like, oh man, like
Well,
Scandinavian and Caro Kann, like it's the same setup.
I kind of know what you mean. Like when sometimes the E and D pawns get traded and then black just does this kind of harmonious development type scheme.
Yeah.
I will say E6 right away is just a positional mistake because it kills the bishop. Usually the whole point of black playing the Caro Kann is to make the light square bishop a bit happier.
Hmm.
So from this position, you can play like d4, and usually you'll play e5 if black allows. If black takes and you take back, this is a better version of like a Rubinstein French.
Hmm.
Usually, like black will get this position with the pawn still on c7, and the main plan for black is to play c5. So black essentially has lost a tempo, and
Mm.
c5. I mean, the move c6 doesn't help black at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's some funny trap, which I've gotten a lot of players in online where they'll play something like knight f6. We trade on f6. I play bishop to d3, and then they won't realize the threat. Bishop d3, it's kind of disguised as a normal developing move. But like if they don't play h6 and play just some developing move, then you have bishop d5 trapping the queen.
Mm.
So that's just one trap. But quite often, like you're not going to get any like huge advantage. It's just about getting a very pleasant position, some slight space advantage where normally you want to avoid trades when you have more space. Like
Hmm.
here, your d pawn gives you more space. You can expand later, c4. If you keep all the minor pieces on the board, then black will be quite cramped,
Hmm.
especially with this bishop.
Mm.
So we can certainly look at yeah ideas in the future, like deeper into the middle game, where black might achieve some fine structure.
Sure,
And
yeah, and I'll give you some games to look at too. So perfect.
yeah, now I can also say that I'm apart from e6, there's a few other moves to know. One of the main moves is bishop g4, which would probably be most likely. I think
Yeah.
it's the most popular move.
Also, I did play one game in the Caro-Kann. And
Oh, okay.
it was this line. I played h3, and then we exchanged.
Aha. And then, oh, he exchanged. I was going to say that there's two choices here for black. Bishop takes f3 and bishop h5. Most people will take on f3. And then you get the bishop pair. Usually, I mean, the way that I learned this position is to just go for some interesting setup involving d3, usually bishop d2, g4, bishop g2, queen g3, f4, and then kind of later decide whether to castle kingside or queenside. But it kind of looks like a closed Sicilian, like this
It
kind
does,
of
yeah.
same setup.
Hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why I kind of started looking into this line for white because it just seemed like the ideas mimic the closed Sicilian.
Mm-hmm.
And black has a slightly different structure, but you kind of have the same kind of long-term middle game ideas of breaking through on the queen side or on the king side.
Mm. Nice.
So yeah, maybe it would help to like see some games from this position, like after e6 and d3. Anyway, WeChat just disconnected for me, but I can still see your screen on my phone.
Oh, really?
So
That's strange, huh? Because your Skype's working.
because Skype is because I'm using data for Skype.
Oh,
I'm
I see.
using the my Airbnb Wi-Fi
Oh,
for
I see. I see.
my computer. But anyway, you can have full control of it as long as you can hear me, and then I can still try and talk and play through the moves.
Okay, sure.
Would you want to? I mean, I can keep going with Caro Kann and show you some other deviations, or we can go along with your games. Do you have any preference?
Yeah, let's do the game analysis, and I'll wait until I'll get some more games in with the Caro for so I can prepare more for the for the
Yeah,
opening.
sure. Yeah, that sounds
Uh,
good. I can also like I was gonna say stalk your account, but I can like search or filter through your online games and see like all the Caro Kann games and maybe be better prepared for a Caro Kann lesson.
yeah, that'll be good. And I actually I try to do that with I don't actually don't know how to do that function. So maybe when you have the lead chess or next time, I would love for you to show me how to do that.
Oh yeah, I mean that can be very quick. Maybe I can show you at the end.
Okay, sure, sure.
It's just a matter of doing like an advanced search and then finding like or determining the opening code.
Oh,
Um,
got it.
I'll make a note of. Let me open up a notepad document. Just
Oh, that makes sense. I was doing advanced search and I was trying to look for openings and like a scroll down menu, but it seems like you got to put the code in, like the E40 or something.
the eco code. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bit weird. It's one of those things I've kind of gotten used to over the years, but it helps to kind of generally know what codes are in
Yeah.
relation to which openings.
Okay.
Anyway, it looks like I'm reconnected. So do you
Cool.
just want to start with that first game, the one against
Yes.
Gallegos?
Yes, please. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. If you reconnected, do you want to take control of the mouse then? And I'll chip in when we need to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, just trying to remember. This was this
This
was a 96 game. Okay,
96, yeah.
right. And okay, you're playing a stronger player. 22. Is he like an older guy? Is he a 2200 floor?
Yeah, he's an older gentleman.
Gotcha. Sometimes those are the best types of players to scrape off rating against because they're overrated. Like they can't go below their floor.
Oh,
Um,
really?
so sometimes like even if it says 2200, they're not actual like master strength.
Hmm.
But okay, he played quite well. I mean, he played well enough in this game that he knew what he was doing in the opening and then just capitalized on your blunder.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we talk about the opening, um, it seemed like he was quite well prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Like 96 is not the type of move you come up with just over the board.
Mm-hmm.
You played one of the main lines, bishop to b5. I will say in the future that if you're playing like a much stronger player, um, I saw you do this in another game. Like you played g3 rather than f4.
Yeah, yeah.
I have another recommendation here, which I kind of discovered after playing this opening for some time, that if I feel like my opponent will be prepared for f4, I would usually be inclined to play this move knight ge2,
Mm-hmm.
where it's a very flexible move. Many times you just go for kind of a closed Sicilian.
Mm-hmm.
Later you play f4, and it would be similar to playing g3 on the third move.
Mm-hmm.
The one advantage knight ge2 has over g3 is that if black plays d5, you're very well ready to capture on d5 and play immediately d4,
Hmm.
which will usually result in some position where black has an isolated d pawn.
Got it.
So it's a nice way to I guess, try and discourage black from playing d5 immediately, and then just get
Oh,
kind of a comfortable setup for white.
I see. Because black wants to play d5 when you play f4.
F4 kind of, yeah, it
Yeah.
kind of encourages d5 just because um, like black wants to challenge the center given you've overextended a little bit. And of course, okay, there's many ways a line can branch out, and there's many good possibilities for white from this opening. But um, I mean, based on my experience, if black is well prepared, it can be hard to find an early advantage for whites.
Got it. Okay, cool. Good. Good to know.
So, so yeah, I mean, and if you play knight g2, I think the main move I've run into in the past is knight c6,
Hmm.
and I like this is still in my repertoire nowadays. Like if I know my opponent plays Sicilian and they play e6 on move two, I'm usually intrigued or at least interested in going into this line because I stay very flexible. I'm also allowing myself the possibility of playing d4 if I feel like I could be tricking them into some open Sicilian that they're not familiar with.
Mm.
So it's one of those things like, okay, you're probably not the type of player who would play d4 immediately, but sometimes you can do specific preparation for specific players.
Got it. Very cool. But what do you play after knight c6? Do you then reveal, okay, I'm playing g3? Or
I
do you?
would usually start, yeah. So like I would only play d4 if I'm comfortable with like going into time mono Sicilian.
Hmm.
But I would usually play g3, like bishop g2 and castling, and then decide like based on black setup if I want to play d3 or d4.
Hmm. So you do play d4, or you could play d4 later on.
Exactly, yeah. And there's certain like types of open Sicilians where when you play d4 and you're fianchettoed with bishop g2 and g3, it can be a very rich position with many ideas for white.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen games like that where there's a open Sicilian and the bishop on g2. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like if we like the way to find games is just let's play it out. Like, let's just play the main line. Okay, let's say some bishop e7, move castling, castling, and then let's say d4. And whenever you play d4, black is pretty much obliged to capture, take back with knight. And this would kind of be the main starting position where you'd want
Mm.
to look through some games. And as far as I understand, like at the master level, white has pretty good results. Um, I think it's a type of position like the computer will usually prefer for white too. Like sometimes the computer will find some interesting ideas.
Mm.
Um, from my experience, like there's sometimes early like g4, g5 ideas. Sometimes it's more positional, like bishop e3 and knight b3, and then like some a4 move to stop black's like a6, b5 ideas. So it's a
Hmm.
playable position for sure for
Yeah.
white.
Yeah, very cool. It might be a good surprise weapon because I don't think many Sicilian players are prepared against an open Sicilian with the bishop g2 or, fianchetto.
Exactly, and like to reiterate or to like, maybe clarify, there's a lot of players who will play e6 on move two against knight c3, but they'll play some completely different move like knight or some different variation against knight f3. So
Mm.
sometimes you can trick them by starting with knight c3, kind of provoking them to play a move they don't usually play against knight f3, and then basically turn it into an open Sicilian later on in the game.
Yeah, and they're not used to playing e6. They might be used to playing d6 and the dragon or something.
Yeah, and I would be curious, like if you played this guy again, if you can maybe find games that he's played in the past, and see what variation of Sicilian he plays.
Hmm.
Maybe prepare specifically.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Ah,
Cool.
I actually see he's had one game against Nikola Mikov, who's like one of the most renowned Knight C3 Sicilian players.
Hmm.
I'm gonna try and find a link to the game.
Yeah, send me that link. And he's like renowned like as in Guy One Jones level, like
He's probably in top five. Like Gawain Jones is probably around number one. Mikov is like top five among grandmasters who will consistently play Knight C3 on
oh,
move two.
awesome. I will see his games too. Yeah. If
Actually,
you
I played
find
him.
send
The
me a check.
most recent tournament I played him, I was lost after 12 moves, and he also tricked me. Like it was so unfortunate. Um, he tricked me into some open Sicilian variation I hadn't seen before, and then I didn't know the theory. I'll try and find that game. I don't know if I ever
Okay,
put it.
sure.
But I just brought in the Mikhoff
Yeah.
Galagos game where like he plays knight f3 on move 3 and then just goes right into open Sicilian. And it can be very dangerous if you know ideas in both closed Sicilian and open Sicilian, because then you can kind of pick and choose what to play against certain opponents.
Mm.
But maybe this is something to play around with, like more long term, like as you grow as a chess player. But
Yeah.
it can be effective in getting even strong players out of their comfort zone.
Hmm. Nice. A lot of psychology involved here.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. This is one of my like most favorite like kind of move order tricks in any opening is to like play knight c3, then like knight g2 or knight f3, and then d4.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, we can focus on what happened in the game because wasn't over so soon. Uh, even though it was over pretty soon, after the blunder. So okay, bishop e5, very fine move. Um, if you were to get this again, g3 is also quite playable,
Yeah.
where sometimes the bishop is happy on g2.
Hmm.
When you play bishop e5, sometimes you're committing to trade it off right away.
Yeah, I had that a lot when they just play bishop d7 and they don't ruin the pawn structure. But when I play in this position, when you play g3 and bishop g2, is it detrimental that your knight is blocking you and when it should be on e2 instead of f3?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Or is it fine? Like, yeah, it's
I mean, the knight is well placed, like within the pawn structure, and normally the bishop naturally bishops don't become active until later, like when the position opens up. So g2 is like one of the best squares on the board for the bishop, where it's not in the way of anything. It's not like a target that black can attack.
Mhm.
It's a good defender, and it will come to life like after things get traded. Also, like in many cases, you'll have knight e5, which naturally unleashes the bishop.
Mhm.
And usually in these types of positions, you look to play bishop g2, you castle, and then you play b3 and bishop b2. And the
Mhm.
bishops actually coordinate quite well. They have influence over all the center squares.
Yeah, got it.
So I think did, did you ever get the book by Gawain Jones?
Yeah, yeah, I have it.
Because I think he might mention this. I'm sure he mentions this sort of line. I forget if he recommends g3 or bishop e5.
I forget this exact line, but I remember one game he showed like it's common to double fianchetto your bishops.
Right. Yeah, I have some vague memory of like looking over these lines when I was playing this consistently myself.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I
G3.
remember like being impressed with whatever game he showed in one of these lines.
Mm.
So it's something to look into. I think I was actually impressed with b3 bishop b2 because when I first started playing this, I was playing like d3 and bishop d2, and I was in awe that the bishop could just develop to such a good square.
Yeah. Nice.
And did I ever show you the line with knight f6? Because this is another move to be prepared for.
I don't think you showed me this. No.
Um, I'll show it to you. I'm pretty sure I did. Maybe there's like video evidence somewhere in
Oh, maybe you're
my
right.
recordings. Just to show possibly again, you can take on f6 and then play g3. Um, and you're just going for natural development. I had this once in the game where my opponent played a very natural looking move b6, intending to try and neutralize the long diagonal. Turns out b6 was actually a very significant error. And now it's white to move and essentially get a really nice position. There's a very strong move here for white, somewhat of a multi-purpose move.
Um. I'm not sure.
I'll give you a clue. There's two vulnerable diagonals for black. The diagonal to the king is very vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the diagonal for the rook, or to the rook.
Yes.
So the move actually it creates threats along both diagonals.
Interesting. I'm trying to move my knight so like my queen can get to f3.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also don't see anything after bishop b5 check.
Yeah, bishop e5 check immediately doesn't do too much. So what move can you
So
play to make bishop e5 check a bit stronger?
so knight e5, bishop b7, bishop b5.
Yeah,
Got
black
it.
loses casting rights. 95. It's a
Yeah.
type of move you might consider, but not realize how strong it is. But the
Yeah,
fact that
yeah.
you're threatening both queen b3 or queen f3 and bishop to b5, it's quite devastating.
Hmm. Got it. I
Uh,
got to see 2 moves ahead in that one.
yeah, and
Cool.
I'm actually excited. I have the database open. Gawain Jones had this, and it's the only game if you check in the Masters database.
Oh
I'm just going to
yeah?
insert the game. Um, seems like something
Nice.
to at least be knowledgeable about. A6 was played, and the rook has to go to A7, and then 95 also allows white to play B3 and bishop B2, and now the queen's a target. So
Hmm.
black wastes so much time just playing these ridiculous moves like rook A7 and queen D8, and meanwhile white is just developing very naturally.
Yeah, and it's an open position too, so
Yeah, I'd be interested if this game is in his book, but maybe the book was published before 2007, so who knows?
yeah, sure.
Just curious. Okay, so white was doing quite well. Maybe black somehow neutralized, but yeah, white eventually transforms advantage.
Yeah,
Anyway, let's go back. Let's see what happened in your game because
sure.
you want to save time for the other games as well.
Sure, sure.
So 96 is played. Um, I actually made a comment here that I had this position once against a master from Washington. It was in the U.S. Chess League. It was like an online league. And I
Mm,
found the game. It's in like a very old U.S. chess article. So
nice. I'll read it.
afterwards, if you're curious, I mean,
Yeah.
the game isn't too relevant. I did end up winning the game as white.
Hmm.
Um, oh, I played the double fianchetto, but my
Mm.
opponent still used this knight h6, knight f5 idea.
Okay.
But somehow I was able to still get a dynamic position and eventually play for a win. Like eventually, um, I attacked on the king side with the bishop glaring down at g7.
Mm.
From this position, let's go forward because I think d3 is fine, knight f5, and I think this was a moment that even if you like weren't that well prepared in the opening, the next move should not have been played. It's
Really?
bishop takes d6
Mm.
because I think it's only helping black. At the very least, you should wait for black to play a6 before you take on c6.
Yeah. So let him waste tempo first, because I thought he was just gonna play it anyway. So I
Mm-hmm.
would just get it out of the way now and then continue. Actually, no, sorry. I thought he was gonna put 2 knights on d4. That's why.
Mm. Yeah, so I was going to say there's more useful things to do in the position. I think the move to play here, maybe you were not so encouraged to play it because I mean when you look at this position, you definitely want to put your bishop on b2.
Yeah.
But against this specific idea, I think c3 is the way to go.
Hmm.
Even though, okay, your bishop no longer wants to go to b2 after c3, you're
Yeah.
restricting the knight. And in many cases, uh, at least in some cases, you would like to play g4 and question the stability of the knights. And meanwhile, your bishop will maybe stay put until the knight is removed from f5, and then maybe you'll do something like this.
Interesting.
Also,
Okay.
you can preserve your bishop when you play c3. Actually, I don't know if it's the best approach, but like after a6, you can consider playing bishop a4 to c2.
C2, yeah.
Which looks a bit strange, like black would probably gain space, like bishop a4, b5, bishop c2. But you're just saving your bishop for later. Like, eventually the center should open up. And you do have like some nice space in the position, given that you have your pawn on f4 controlling e5. You're ready to maybe play g4. You still have these like queen e1 to swing over to the king side ideas. So it would still be quite playable.
Got it. And I saw you also made a note to play G4 to consider play G4 immediately.
Yeah. So this is another option. Like if you wanted to have like deep preparation for next time, this looked really intriguing. Or it's a very concrete line where black, okay, pretty much obligated to play knight d4. You can take on d7. You can play c3, kick the knight back. And the point of doing this is that black is a little bit underdeveloped. King's still in the center.
Mm-hmm.
And you can try and strike right away with f5. I was looking at this earlier. It's a very double-edged position. The engine will say like approximately equal, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's like very drawish. It just means, okay, it's maybe chances for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And here one of the points is, okay, you have ideas of f6.
Yeah, so
Black has to be
has to
careful.
catch.
Black has to be careful taking on f5. Because that that's opening up the center. Your rook can come into f5. c5 is attacked. King is a target on e8.
Mm-hmm.
If the king castles queenside, there might be like bishop f4 move type ideas where the king ends up being stuck. So it's an interesting position. It's the type of move maybe you'd play if you're feeling very aggressive, or if it's blitz and you want to just keep the initiative in the position.
Okay, good. Good to know. Yeah, I'll
So
keep this in mind if I play the bishop b5 line, but the g3 line looks more appealing than when you talked about it earlier.
yeah. I mean, I guess the reason why I'm showing you multiple lines is just to give you
Yeah.
choices, what
Yeah,
would be more
thank you.
comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would probably like my personal preference is just to play g3, just be a bit more solid. So so anyway, if we go forward to what happened in the game, I think at least a psychological problem, you were so fixated on what you wanted to do, you forgot about your opponent's tactical ideas.
Yeah.
Which was a bit unfortunate because the position is clearly still playable. Queen e2. I saw some of the lines you gave, and I think black is maybe slightly for choice, but especially if you can get your bishop to b2, it would be a fight.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was the time control? Like, was it rapid or?
This one was 55 minutes. So
that's not much.
yeah, it's a little bit slower. Day 2 was 2 hours. So day one's
Gotcha.
kind of like the faster time controls.
Yeah, with 55 minutes, I mean, blunders will happen more often just because there's less time, and sometimes it's just about blunder checking and ensuring that you're playing slowly enough to avoid these careless blunders.
Yeah.
But quickly enough to stay out of time trouble. So yeah, I'm trying to think of advice to give you for next time. To, like not allow.
It was just a careless mistake. I think I was just so thrown off by knight h6. I was like, what is happening? That I completely missed that he had the knight on e3 to be an option. I just never considered that he would do it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, that when your opponent plays like some unusual idea, you have to be extra careful, like extra aware of the like different types of like tactical ideas that can emerge from where their pieces are placed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if you're so used to the knight being on f6, like, when the knight's on f5, you don't maybe realize like there's additional squares the knight can move to. This has happened to me a lot in other positions where like I've played h3 and then I can like hop into g3 from f5.
Yeah.
So it's a good point, like in the opening, just to be extra careful. Like when your opponent plays a new move, that you just kind of take a step back just to realize their ideas.
Got it.
But okay, hopefully a game to learn from, even though it was a short game. I think there were still a good number of lessons to take away. So do you want to move on to the next game?
Yeah, oh, actually, in this game, can I take a look at a position with you?
Yeah, sure.
I can scroll it.
Yeah,
Here.
go for it. I'll admit I didn't look too much deeper after you lost the exchange.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
totally
I should have.
That's totally fine. Computer actually thought it was equal here.
Oh, wow.
Or like negative 0.2 or something. Like it was oh, actually, sorry.
Well,
right.
I will say you did a good job of like keeping the files closed.
I had to.
which is a great strategy when you're down the exchange. The rooks can't really come into play. You have d3 defended, like that's your main kind of backward pawn.
Yeah.
Black's bishop is so bad.
Yeah. In this position, like computing is pretty equal, and I was very surprised because in the game I was like, I have to checkmate black or else he's gonna like just open things up and then tear me down.
That might have been the wrong approach.
Yeah.
Not because you misevaluated. Or maybe you did slightly misevaluate. Sometimes when you're down material, there's two different types of strategies. One strategy is to do what you said, like go for the kill, try and like checkmate your opponent, make things really crazy. In this specific position, I think the other strategy would apply. You just want to hold on, just wait, and see what black is up to, because it's not clear how black is going to make sufficient progress. And sometimes you can even get a situation where black could overpush. Black tries to open things up. Some move like g6 or something because he's getting impatient, then that can be very bad for black. Now I do see there is like one main idea for black is to play this a5 a4 push.
Yeah, which he eventually did. And I thought about that as well. Like if I could just hold this position, like it could maybe draw, but I thought realistically, like is it possible? Can I just sit around all day and then black and just like combat whatever black's gonna do? Because eventually black will break through. That was my thought process, which is why I wanted to attack. But I guess what you're trying to say is like maybe there is a way to hold on, and
well, we'll have to take a look at the specific moves. I will say, I have the engine turned on now just to kind of get a sense of what it might be evaluating.
Sure.
Like sometimes the engine will change its mind. Like it will say like minus 0.2 here, and after playing g4, now it says minus 0.6.
Yeah.
At least for my whatever depth it's going at. So okay, black is still probably clearly better, and like sometimes with these types of positions, the computer might misevaluate if there's no immediate tactics. It's just relying on some positional evaluation. Let's go forward here because I'm trying to understand what it's saying. And sometimes you have to, like, if you're analyzing with the engine, you have to kind of play it out to see what strategy the engine wants to employ. Like here, it likes queen h4. Then I would be curious, like, what happens after a5? It's saying to infiltrate with the queen. And there's ideas of queen g6. A4. Queen. And sometimes it will just come up with some like crazy idea that you would never consider. But
I'm
at
thinking
least you
like
try and
what?
like understand it.
Yeah.
It,
Like
it does actually have a crazy idea here to play bishop c1 and then sacrifice on h6, and then somehow get repetition in this game. I think it's giving a takes b3 and bishop takes h6. What? G takes h6. Okay, so not queen e6 check, but you just take back. You're threatening mate in 1. Only one move for black to stay alive. And then somehow you have nothing better than just repetition because you're down the whole rook. Oh my gosh, it's giving knight g5 check. But knight g5, it's just still the same repetition. You could just repeat right away. It's even giving knight g5 in this position is just a draw.
That's pretty nuts. I would have never seen that, but that's a cool idea.
Yeah. So actually, like what I said earlier, may have been kind of contradictory to what the computer is actually recommending. It's recommending to go crazy and then you get this forcing repetition. And sometimes the way to understand these things is just by experience.
Of
Like
course,
playing
yeah.
this out with Engine kind of now makes you realize, oh wow, you have like all your pieces, like even your bishop helping play a role with so much firepower. Maybe there would be something like even when you're down material, there's sometimes a possibility of sacrificing if you have enough firepower.
Yeah. Forced draw here. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, now I'm curious what happens after pawn takes a2 because black is ready to make a queen. And there's no way to stop it. I don't have the engine turned on anymore. The engine was saying draw. Ooh, I think I see the move. I think there's only one move.
Knight
Maybe
takes
there's a few moves.
check? No.
And bishop takes f6.
Yeah. It looks like you allow him to get a queen.
And you just take on g7.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And the king runs away to like h4. I don't know. Just
I was thinking maybe you could like put the king on g2, play knight f2.
oh, I see.
Like survive somehow that way. I think there's an even simpler move here. Now I'm trying to calculate. Oh, it's probably still drawn. There's kind of a nice, so-called invisible move.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you because I don't know if it's right. I'll check with the engine afterwards, but I think it's bishop c1, where you're blocking the check and you're threatening mate in 1.
Oh, that's
I
nice.
assume this is a draw after rook f8. Let's see. Oh no, white is winning. What?
What?
Because there's queen h7 check. So after rook f8, queen h7, queen g6, king g8,
And then rook h7?
rook h7, yeah,
Rook f7?
rook f7,
Queen h5?
queen h5, yeah, force mate. Insane. That would be amazing if you won this game like this.
Oh my goodness, I would like jump up and down or something. That would be crazy.
And if bishop d6 after this, oh, still queen h5, the same thing. Yeah, because g6 is just rook h8, queen h7.
Dang, nice. Okay, so lots of lessons here. You could like maybe it might use your imagination to force a draw. That could be really cool.
Yeah, it takes a lot of imagination for this type of play. Like just to allow black to like push the a pawn all the way down. It's just a little too slow for black. Interesting.
Okay, nice. Nice. I'm ready to do the next game if
Yeah,
you're
let's move on.
if you're good.
For sure. The next one was against the next one was against Manas. Do you know Manas?
I don't know him personally, no. Do
Okay.
you?
I know him virtually. So he's a streamer. He has a Twitch channel.
Mm-hmm. He
And
works
if
at
you were
Twitch. Yeah.
and he works at Twitch too, yeah. So we've played a few games on League Chess, and I've played close Sicilian against him. I'll have to I think the very first time I played him I actually lost to him
Oh,
in the
wow.
close Sicilian.
Wow.
It was
Well,
devastating.
oh no.
Well, and it was even more devastating because he posted his win against me on Reddit, and it was like on the front page of like the chess subreddit.
Oh, like my win against the international master?
Something like that, yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, it was good publicity. It was just was unfortunate that was our first game. Um,
Okay, cool. I'm glad you know him. Yeah, I was looking at some of his games and stuff, and um,
yeah, and he's the type of player. If you play him again, I mean, you'll want to like look at his online account because it seems like he plays um like the same openings online as he does in tournaments.
yeah, yeah.
And that type of player, I love preparing against where you can just like see all their online games and know
I
exactly
know.
what to expect.
Well, that's what I do, so I'm afraid that that'll backfire on me later on.
Um, that's why you should usually try and stay anonymous. Um, for me, I just play different things online than I do in tournaments, so it's usually not a problem. But if I'm like training seriously online, I'll usually just play under a friend's account, or sometimes I'll create just some anonymous account.
Mm.
But it's standard practice.
Okay, cool.
So anyway,
Yeah.
we can go forward with the opening. One thing I'll recommend that if you get like this exact same position next time, you can
Hmm.
play Bishop B5.
This one you can play Bishop B5.
It's kind of like that line I showed you in the English.
Yeah.
Where, like, remember, if they allow you to take and double their pawns, it just leads to a very simple position for white to play.
And if Bishop D7?
If Bishop D7, then you're still probably going to take, but then you wait for them to play A6. So you don't take immediately.
Got it.
You castle, let's say they play A6, then you take, Bishop takes in D3. And this is the type of position you can have against in English where, okay, you would have one less tempo if you're black, but still all the same ideas with Queen E1, Queen H4, F5.
Hmm.
And usually light squared bishop is better being traded early
In
if you're
this,
going to play Grand Prix than like just sitting on G2 and not contributing to the attack.
mm,
And you got rid of Black's Knight, which in many cases will come into D4 where it's a bit annoying of a piece.
interesting. So, yeah, it seems like the Grand Prix and Close Sicilian, they're like sisters. Like they're really similar, but
Mm-hmm.
there's some nuances that are very different. Like,
There's some differences.
yeah,
And I mean, I should mention like putting the bishop on G2. It's still very playable. It's just a different type of position where usually the attack is a bit slower.
yeah, got it.
So something to consider for next time. I'll also say bishop c4 is playable.
Cool.
I think if you check out the games of Mitkov, like that's the one player. Like if you do a search for Mitkov, like chessgames.com,
Hmm.
and then Mitkov, you should know the eco code for closed Sicilian is B23 to
Yeah, I see it.
B25.
Mm. Hmm.
So I'll share the link in the study chat, and hopefully this will be a good selection of games to check out.
Cool. Thank you.
So, yeah, no problem. So anyway, let's see what happened in your game because you played really nicely. Like you got crushing position, and then at some point things collapsed.
Yeah, I had a nice position, so, and I'm very unfortunate that one mistake kind of held me back a little bit.
Right. Yeah, let's go forward here because I mean overall I liked the way you played. You were very patient. He was playing some strange idea like this 96 knight d4, which in hindsight I don't think was effective at all because he didn't play knight d4 so early, and he allowed you to play c3, and then it's already just bad for black.
Yeah, he didn't know what he was doing there.
Yeah,
he admitted to me after the game, but I'm like, okay, sure.
I mean, which goes to show, like, you got him out of his comfort zone like that. You won the opening battle.
Yeah. So this is
Uh,
ideal for the close Sicilian, kind of like this setup.
of course, yeah. Where I
Yeah.
mean, no pieces are getting traded after c3.
Mm.
If you play knight ed4, it's slightly better because at least like c3, and then let's say he takes on f3 or takes on e2. Now his knight is no longer on e6, so you're not getting tempo with f5.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's slightly better for him.
It would be slightly better for him, yeah, to trade off.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be better for me too, because my queen gets to develop with tempo and
Um, I don't know if that's too relevant.
okay, got it. Got it.
I
So
mean, it's
black,
something. Yeah, feels good.
it sounds like black wants to trade more pieces in this setup because of the attack that white wants to do.
Yeah, it's weird, but like the knight on f6 or e6, it sometimes favors white because it's used as fuel for the attack. Like you can
Mhm.
expand while kicking it around,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily a great defender.
Okay, cool.
Now, okay, this would still be a fight. You still have your attack. I mean, black could probably play b5 and focus on some kind of queenside play, try and distract you, but it's still preferable for white.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if we go back and see after c3, this knight is just so sad on f8. Even though it's kind of a defender, okay, things kept looking to be good for you. I like knight f4, knight d5. This is all very nice. You provoke f6. Let's just keep going to the critical moment. There is a move
Sure.
here, g5. I don't know if you considered this, but
Oh, I saw it after the game, and I
Mhm.
was like, wow, that would have been so good to play.
Yeah, it's still a bit complicated because you're allowing bishop takes h3,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's a situation where both black and white are trying to attack on the king side. But I think still the lines should favor you. Like you take on f6, you play rook takes f6, ready for the double up.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, white is clearly for choice. But okay, you play 93. This is also very playable. And then knight f5. I was curious, like how much time did you have around here, like when you played knight f5?
Maybe about like 30, 40 minutes, maybe.
Oh, okay, so you had a lot of time.
Yeah, a good amount of time. And I should have taken more time at this point.
Yeah, this is a very critical moment.
I thought I had some tactics against the H pawn
Mm.
with
Oh, like lifting your rook over?
yeah, and then putting my queen in. I thought I had something, but I think
Yeah,
I just miscalculated
it
and
was a bit artificial.
yeah, yeah.
I
This
think
is
maybe you also overlooked the fact that like when you take with rook, black can get this setup with eventual e5 knight f4,
yeah, I didn't see that at all.
which is something like when you're black, you'll be kind of inclined to look for this type of active play, this nice kind of positional creation of the outpost. But when you're white, I know it's easier to overlook because
Hmm.
you're not as involved with your opponent's ideas.
Yeah.
So it's another moment where you just have to be aware of what your opponent wants to do.
Hmm.
But going back here, I mean, in hindsight, even not in hindsight, it was just clearly better to take with the pawn.
Oh man, yeah.
Because now
I
the knight can't establish an outpost.
yeah, I saw him go to knight e5
Mm-hmm.
and I thought maybe here if I would have pushed d4, my pawn would be isolated and that would be
Mm,
bad for me. But
that's the least of your worries.
that's my
You're
yeah.
more focused on like clobbering the black king. There's no time to be worried about an isolated pawn. It's hard for the opponent to attack.
Yeah. Huh.
Um, Actually, you can probably start with rook b e1 here, and then go for d4.
Mm.
And the e pawn is much more of a headache. It's just completely backwards. You have full control over e6, ideas of eventual bishop e6, also lingering ideas of g5.
Yeah.
If the
Oh.
knight ever tries to like go back to c6, you can also consider just taking it with the bishop and then win the e-pawn.
Mm-hmm.
So this would have been amazing for you. And like the idea of tripling up on e file is just so hard to stop. So you're almost guaranteed to win the e-pawn.
Mm. Yeah, that would have been so good. So good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
this is one of those like experience type things. If you show this position to like a strong master, they're gonna just intuitively take with the pawn because the opening of the e-file is just so valuable.
hmm Yeah, I think I was trying to push something that wasn't there. And that I think this moment like lost me my best advantage because now it's just pretty dead equal.
Um, yeah. I mean, it was still playable, and actually later on in the game, you still had chances to win. If we just go forward here, but yeah, of course, you let most of your advantage just slip. Um, there's one moment towards the end I just want to show you. It was
Sure, yes, please.
maybe painful looking back on, but I actually like the way you played. Like you got some nice active play with your rook, and you still had winning chances. Do you remember this moment? You could play rook d1.
I missed it.
Uh,
At this moment, we both had like under 2 minutes. He had like 30 seconds left, and I had 2 minutes.
well, 2 minutes is a lot of time, but I know like it's easy to overlook even simple moves when you have
Sure.
a couple minutes
Yeah.
left.
If I
And this
saw
still
that,
takes calculation too,
I mean,
because
yeah,
knight d3. I mean, it's very easy calculation. You just attack the knights, and like there's some nice line here: king e3, bishop f1. You attack with everything. Black defends with everything, and then you trade everything, and then you just promote your pawn.
wow. Yeah, that would have been nice.
Um, Yeah, so like in these time scramble situations, like tactics should usually be the first priority, like the forcing moves.
Mm.
Um, but I can imagine like after, even though you're up a pawn here, like the knight can sometimes be trickier, especially in these time scramble situations. And it's not always about material. Sometimes it's about king safety. Um,
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
curious how he ended up winning.
he ended up winning by creating a mating net, essentially.
Mm,
And there's so much pressure on my king
yeah,
that he eventually won some material. He won this bishop because he played knight
92.
e2, yeah.
Gotcha.
Um, and then it was just like a 10-second scramble from there. So
Uh-huh.
I was close. I felt like this lasted the whole 4 hours, and
Wow.
it was one of the games where I felt like, man, like I could win against an expert, but it
Yeah.
was very close.
And I think he's working very hard to become a master. Um, if you watch his Twitch streams, like they're all like study and trying to play high rated players.
Mhm.
Um, so it's a good sign that you were like on the verge of beating him like a couple times this game.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I gotta look him up more. He wanted to study on the weekends and stuff, but he
Mm-hmm.
didn't respond to me, weirdly enough. But overall, like, yeah, so close, so close.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta you gotta message them a bunch of times. Like I know he's very busy, like his schedule with like Twitch or whatever.
Oh,
Um,
well, I'm sorry, so close with the game, not with him.
oh, I got you. Okay,
I mean, people say they want to do stuff, but they don't do it all the time, so I'm
I
cool.
understand. Yeah, yeah.
Um, oh man.
Anyway, we should take a look at least briefly at the opening in the other game, the round six game
Yes, yes, please.
against Boldy.
Of the third game, right?
Um, game three, the one you had in your email, I assume that was round
C4.
six.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll
Um,
have to explain. There's a reason this isn't popular. The reason is that you can play e5 here.
Yeah, I saw it on a database, but I didn't understand. Like now we have like a stonewall structure.
I know it looks kind of boring, symmetrical, where like, okay, d5 is weak for you, d4 is weak for white. Um, there's a few purposes or a few reasons why you would play this move. Reason number one, if you allow white to play d4, it's already very pleasant for white.
Hmm.
So you have to stop d4 in this case. e5 is the only move that makes sense to stop d4. On top of that, when you play e5, arguably this is already preferable for black, even though white has extra tempo with knight
Hmm.
f3. The knight isn't exactly that well placed on f3 in this sort of structure, where a very common pawn break is f5, or in white's case, f4. So it's going to take white additional time to remove the knight and play f4. Meanwhile, you can get a more harmonious setup where you'll go for like g6, bishop g7, knight e7, castling, and eventually f5.
Really? You think handle the bishop here?
Well, you don't want
Wow.
to block. You don't want to block your pawn. I mean, maybe you could play bishop e7, f5, and f6. Maybe that would be another option.
Yeah, well, I've never seen this before, so I'm just
Uh-huh.
looking at it from fresh eyes, like, whoa, interesting.
I'm a bit curious, actually, what masters do. Um, knight c6 is maybe the most flexible move. Like you start with this because you know your knight wants to be on c6. White plays d3. Yeah,
Mm,
most played move here is g6.
G6, yeah.
Keeps the king safe. The bishop is naturally not that effective, like wherever it goes in the structure, especially because like your center pawns are on dark squares.
Hmm.
So when you play bishop g7, it's more about king safety. Maybe like having some influence over d4. Like if you play knight d4, there's a
Yeah.
bit more support from the bishop. G6 can also support f5, or in some cases you might want to take back the pawn.
Hmm. Got it.
Um,
Yeah, it seems like it's not a Sicilian anymore. It's a different game here.
it's a different type of opening. This is I don't know if this exact system has this name, but this sort of setup with these pawns combined with like g6 and bishop g7, it's called the Botvinnik system.
Hmm.
It's
Got it.
actually an opening that can be played for white. It's one of like these system-based openings where if
Yeah.
white plays in English, then white could play the Botvinnik with this sort of move like configuration.
Hmm.
And usually like d3 is played, not d4.
Yeah,
And
moving
it's an
to the black
opening
side.
I've toyed around with from the white side, like when I was a bit younger. It's just something like if you're lazy and you don't want to study openings and you want to play something fresh, it's not a bad choice for white.
Yeah.
But
Okay, good.
in this case, it's very playable for black.
Hmm. Got it.
So,
Nice.
so yeah, it's good to know next time because like after knight c6, d4, like it's already nice for white.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm out of book here.
And then you play queen b6, which is such a rare move. I mean, you could play g6, and it would be. This is actually kind of a mainline accelerated dragon.
Mhm.
Um, not the most reputable line, but very playable if you know what you're doing. But yeah,
Hi.
next time you should just avoid this.
Yeah, I'll avoid this completely. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you for this. I appreciate it. E5 and then the close Sicilian and then knight h6 ideas. You gotta um, wait until they play a6 before trading out the bishop.
Yeah, in that other game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch out for
Actually, let me make one correction to that. You
sure.
can trade on c6 when your bishop's on d5 if they have to take back with the pawn.
Oh, yes, that's true.
But if their bishop's on d7, you wait for them to play a6.
Hmm. Okay, got it. Yeah, I'm gonna look up more games with this Mitov. What is it?
Oh,
Mikola
Mitkov.
Mitkov.
Yeah.
I'll look up his games too.
Yeah, there should be a good number. I'm browsing through here. It's actually a very good number.
Yeah, it's a lot of
20,
games.
okay, about 48 games with these eco codes. So he's played this a good amount.
Well, fantastic.
I'm trying to
Cool.
think of other players between Mitkov and Gawain Jones. There's another player, and sometimes this is good if you're just looking for inspiration.
Yeah.
Um, the other player I'm thinking of, he's probably the weakest out of these three, but
Hmm.
his name is Sunil Weramantry.
Hmm.
Have you heard of him?
I have not, no.
Okay, he's Hikaru Nakamura's stepdad,
Oh.
interesting relation.
Oh,
Uh,
I know of him then. Yeah.
yeah, he's pretty well known in the chess world. He has some position with like U.S. chess, I believe. Pretty renowned coach too.
Got it.
So I'm sharing another link with his games in
No.
Knight C3 Sicilian.
Got it.
The
All right.
very
Well,
first time I
inspiration.
ever saw Knight C3 Sicilian, I got smashed by him, which was so
Really?
devastating. I wish I had that game. It's on my like old hard drive or something, but he
Mm,
completely destroyed me. So I
dang.
have to look that game up.
Okay, I'm excited to dive in. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I know next time, like if you want to look at Caro Kann or look more at these openings that you'll encounter someday, that might be a good topic.
Yeah, that'll be a good topic. I'll let you know. I might have more games in the future, but
Sounds
Carol
good.
Con is definitely on the list for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Hope you
Yeah.
enjoy the rest of London and the rest of the
Yeah. Thanks so
match.
much. And I will let you know that I'm like my schedule is going to be quite busy in London, so it's possible I'm going to be blocking out at least the full days of the rounds. But like the rest days, I should still be free. And then after London, I'll have like this kind of gap period where I'll be free through like December 5th.
Okay.
And then I'm not going to be free from December 6th through like Christmas. So that's about like two or 3 week like off time because I'm playing like back to back tournaments.
Oh,
So just to
wow.
let you know.
Okay. All right. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
And good luck on those tournaments. Whew, going back in it.
Thanks. Yeah, it wasn't my intention to play back-to-back tournaments. I played the same two events last year, but it's going to be tiring. And last year I was teaching like during the events. I've,
Mm,
I've learned my lesson. It was just
too
too
much.
much.
Yeah.
Like it was too draining. So we'll see
Are you
how it
trying to be
goes.
a grandmaster?
So not exactly because the tournaments I'm playing in they're international norm events. And I'm actually playing in them because I'm getting an appearance fee to be the foreign IM to give other players opportunity to become international masters.
Yeah. Got
So it's not for like grandmaster norm, but maybe if I do well, I'll pick up some rating.
it. Hmm.
So we'll see.
Cool. Well, awesome. Sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping to do some at least some kind of online content when I get the chance between like Twitch or YouTube. So we'll see if I can make that happen.
Sure. All right. Thanks, Eric. Very much
Yeah, you're welcome,
appreciated.
Tam.
And I'll talk to you whenever I see you next.
All right, yeah, sounds good. Feel free to just check the calendar to book something.
Okay, I'll check that.
All right. Well, take care. Have a good day.
All right. You too, Eric.
Okay,
Later.
thanks. Bye.